Yo, what's good everyone? Happy Friday. Hope y'all have had a great week so far and got some good plans here for this weekend. Today I'm going to be breaking down some of my favorite cash game plays for this Week 6 NFL DraftKings main slate. Like I always do, I'm going to go position by position, talking about those plays that stick out to me, and then we'll wrap up the video with another low-priced option or sub-4K wide receiver play. With that being said, let's dive into my spreadsheet here. And like we always do, we're going to kick things off here in the top left-hand corner with those highest implied game totals. We got two of these games on the main slate coming in with an implied total of at least 50 points, and two games that will likely be popular on this main slate, and then four games right after that coming in at 45.5, so definitely some shootout potential on this slate. And then I got those highest implied team totals listed behind me, and you can always use that as a reference point as I'm going through my favorite cash game plays here. With that being said, let's dive into the quarterbacks here, and I'm going to keep it really simple at this position this week by either spending up for Josh Allen or spending down for Geno Smith. Two quarterbacks we're going to play in those games with an implied total of 50 plus points, so again, definitely shoot up potential in those games. I really probably don't need to make a case here for Josh Allen at this point. I've mentioned this a few weeks in a row. If they're going to keep pricing him and guys like Jalen Hurts and the low 8K range, they're going to remain viable in our cash lineups. But I'll go over some stats here just for the hell of it against the Kansas City Chiefs. I put those in the notes. Chiefs are 28th in passing points allowed per pass attempt. They're also facing the second most pass attempts in the NFL. You combine those two together, they're allowing a league high 20.7 passing points per game. Now on top of that, Josh Allen is one of the best rushing quarterbacks in the NFL, giving him that safe floor week in and week out and that tremendous ceiling. And that's what we saw the last time these two teams played, where Josh Allen racked up 36 and 37 fantasy points against the Kansas City Chiefs. And then Geno Smith, if we do want to save some money, he's almost, $2,500 cheaper than Josh Allen. So I get it, if you want to spend up at other positions, I think Geno is absolutely fine in this matchup at home against the Arizona Cardinals. Geno has surprised us all so far this year. I don't think there's any argument there. In his last three starts, he's finished as QB7, QB2, and QB4. We definitely didn't see that coming, which has led to him being first in PFF passing grade, third in yards per attempt, tied with Josh Allen, and first in big-time throw rate. And that's a great statistic going up against this Cardinals defense, who ranks 31st versus explosive passes. So again, definitely some shootout potential in this game, and at $5,700, we need 16, 17 DraftKings points in order for him to meet 3x value. As he's shown, he's definitely capable of that. Now moving over here to the running backs, and I got four that I really like here in my cash lineup this week. I also think that Saquon Barkley is very viable. And look, if Jameis Winston ends up starting for the New Orleans Saints this weekend, I'd probably pivot off of AK and put Barkley in this spot. But if it ends up being Andy Dalton again, I really like Kamara at this price here at $6,700. Last week we saw AK return after missing 2 weeks and kind of got back to that same role we saw with Drew Brees. He had 23 rushing attempts and 6 targets in that game, albeit a easy matchup against Seattle. He absolutely smashed, and he didn't even find the end zone. So if he's going to remain at this price here in the 6K range, I'll definitely take advantage of that. Next, I got Ramondre Stevenson there of the New England Patriots. Now, we do need to monitor the injury status of Damian Harris in this game. He has been a limited participant in practice this week with that hamstring injury that ended up causing him to leave last week. However, I don't think he's going to play because the Patriots did call up practice squad running back Kevin Harris. But keep an eye on that. If Harris is in, I'm off of Ramondre, at least in my cash lineups. Probably more of a tournament play. Because either way, he still has a great matchup here against the Cleveland Browns, who rank dead last in rush DVOA. And Stevenson has looked very good here over the last 3 weeks. Once he kind of took over as RB1 last week, he had 25 rushing attempts, 161 rushing yards, 2 targets in that game, finishing with damn near 23 DraftKings points. At $6,000 here, considering the matchup, I think he's definitely viable in cash games, again, if Damian Harris is out. And then I got Kenneth Walker and Eno Benjamin there, who are actually in very similar situations this week and happen to be playing against one another. Being that Rashad Penny is going to be out for the remainder of the season with that broken leg, Kenneth Walker steps in as RB1 in this Seattle offense, and being that James Conner is going to be out here in week 6. Same thing with Eno Benjamin. Now, largely what this comes down to is, number one, the matchup that has that implied total of 50.5 points, but number two, the dirt cheap price tags here. You just don't get starting running backs on DraftKings in the low 5K range, and certainly not at $4,600. And while they'll likely both be very popular on this main slate, we don't care about that when it comes to our cash lineups. So I'm going to take advantage of the price here, and again, the matchup that has that shootout potential. Now, folks, before we dive into these wide receiver plays here, if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. I can't believe this is week 6 of the NFL season already, but here we are, but I still got a lot of football content coming out for you guys the rest of the year, and I appreciate every single one of you who tune into these videos. Alright, now diving into the wide receivers here, two things I need to mention right off the bat. Number one, you probably just saw the notes change there. I was scrambling a little bit and got that wrong. What I had put was the Dolphins had allowed a league-high 547 receiving yards to wide receivers this year. Yeah, that would probably be a league low. What I meant to say, and have updated it, is Justin Jefferson leads the league with 547 receiving yards. So I got that change. And then number two here, I did initially have Cooper Kupp listed as the top wide receiver, but I did pivot to Justin Jefferson last minute before I started recording. Now, I do have Kupp listed as an honorable mention. And look, if you play him in your cash lineup, that's 100% okay. This guy seems to be locked into 10-plus targets week in and week out, and 25-plus DraftKings points for what it's worth. But I do like the matchup here for Justin Jefferson against the Miami Dolphins, who seem to be banged up on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball. They rank dead last in pass DVOA this year, so Justin Jefferson should have his way with those cornerbacks, especially if he's going to continue to see 11-plus targets, which he's seen so far in 4 of 5 games this year. Next, I got Chris Godwin there, who's also in a very good matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers. We could go with Mike Evans as well, but with the value that you get here with Chris Godwin at $6,100, he is my preferred play, as Pittsburgh Steelers defense just cannot stop the pass and allowing an abundance of points to wide receivers this year. Again, you can see that in the notes. They've allowed a league-high 52 DraftKings points per game to the position. And then I got Tyler Lockett there, and I just don't understand why he's still at $5,600 or in this mid-5K range. He's played well enough here over the past handful of weeks to where he legit should probably be in the 6K range, but hey, I will take advantage of it, especially in this matchup here against the Arizona Cardinals. A lot of shootout potential, like I've mentioned a couple of times. You've seen Lockett have some really good games here over the past few weeks, having 14-plus DraftKings points in 4 straight games, along with 36 targets in those games. Combined, not 36 per game. That'd be ridiculous. And then sticking in that same game here with Rondale Moore, who's sitting at a really nice price of $4,200, took over that Greg Dortch role, who played very well in the first 3 weeks of the season. You know, Rondale Moore came back in week 4, only had 5 targets in that game, slowly worked his way back, and then last week saw 8 targets, had 68 yards, finished with 13 DraftKings points. That's over 3x value at this current price. We need, what, 12.6 DraftKings points in order for him to hit that this week? I think he can definitely get there in this shootout potential matchup against the Seattle Seahawks defense, who rank 31st overall in pass DVOA. For what it's worth, this is one of the worst defenses in general in the NFL, so the Cardinals should have no problem moving the ball on them and scoring points. And then I got one more honorable mention there in Chris Olave. He did get that concussion last weekend, so we need to keep an eye on that, but it looks like he was a limited participant in practice Thursday. I think the concussion protocol is going very well for him. Another guy whose price just isn't changing, and he should be much more expensive than $5,500, just like Tyler Lockett, right? But I like him a little bit more if Jameis Winston does end up playing compared to Andy Dalton. I have no problem with him at this price with Andy Dalton. We saw him score a touchdown last week, get 6 targets in that game before he ended up getting injured. But with Jameis Winston, he loves to just take those deep shots on guys like Chris Olave, so I would prefer him a little bit more there. And like I said, with Alvin Kamara, I prefer Dalton versus Jameis Winston. We then got the tight ends here, and I notoriously don't spend up at the tight end position when it comes to my cash lineup. I prefer to just pay down at this position and spend up elsewhere. But considering the value we get at the running back and wide receiver positions this week, we can afford a guy like Travis Kelce. And I put his numbers in the notes off to the right-hand side. He's leading the Chiefs this year in targets with 42, receptions with 33, catch rate percentage at 79%, receiving yards at 347, and 7 touchdowns through 5 weeks, albeit he did score 4 of those just last week, as we all saw. But again, highest implied total here in this game against the Bills, who I believe, and I don't have the stat in front of me, run the most cover 2 plays on the defensive side of the ball, which basically means they want everything coming under them. They're going to stop the deep pass. Well, that's perfect for Travis Kelce. He's not running Hail Mary routes. He's a guy that has those short A-dot routes and gets a lot of targets thrown his way. So, yeah, Kelce, not someone I normally spend up for in cash, but this week, considering the value elsewhere, it does make sense. Now, if you do want to save some money at the tight end position, David Njoku stuck out to me for the Cleveland Browns. He's looked very good here over the past few weeks, and a solid price tag of $4,000. I put these in the notes as well. He's actually second in PFF receiving grades at the tight end position, and PFF stands for Pro Football Focus. I would assume most know that, but if you've never heard of that, that's what it is. And then third in yards per route run, and first in target per route run rate. Minimum 10 targets. So he's played well here. He's got a good matchup against the Patriots, who've allowed 13.5 DraftKings points per game to opposing tight ends this year. That's over 3x value at this current price of $4,000. And then I got a couple of honorable mentions there as well. Tyler Higbee has been a target monster this year as well for the Los Angeles Rams. He's number 2 in targets on that offense outside of Cooper Kupp. Kind of surprising, to be honest. Not surprising in that Tyler Higbee isn't a solid tight end, surprising in the amount of volume that he's actually seen. And then Zach Gentry there. If you want to get crazy, punt at the tight end position. Pat Freiermuth of the Pittsburgh Steelers is out with a concussion this week. Zach Gentry is a monster tight end and only needs, 7-8 DraftKings points in order to meet value? I don't know if I'll be going there, but it is viable in my opinion. And just to clarify, when I say monster tight end, I don't expect him to go out and get a bunch of catches and score 2 touchdowns. I mean, that'd be very cool if he did at this price of $2,600. What I meant was he's a monster in that he is 6'8" and 265 pounds. And then I got a couple of defenses there for you. Probably just going to spend down at the position here this week, like I do most weeks. The New Orleans Saints stuck out to me here a little bit, going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, Cincinnati has really yet to explode this year, and I would hate for that to happen if I'm playing the Saints, because I think they're going to do that here sooner than later. But for what it's worth, the Saints now have 3 sacks in 3 straight games, and this Bengals offensive line has really struggled once again this year, ranking 26th overall on PFF right now. And then the Panthers here, they are the cheapest defense on this main slate, going up against the Rams, who have allowed the 3rd highest sack percentage in the league at damn near 10%. And Matthew Stafford has thrown 7 interceptions through 5 games. So if we're going to punt, that's not a bad matchup at all for the Panthers. And as always, going to wrap up the spreadsheet here with a low-priced option or sub 4K wide receiver play. And honestly, for what it's worth, I don't even think we need to spend below $4,000 this week, unless it's at the tight end or defensive position. There's just too much value with Walker, Benjamin, Rondale Moore, to where we don't need to spend for a guy like Darius Slayton. But it's a part of my video. I didn't want to break that this week. And Darius Slayton, I do believe, is a fine play. Fine play. Not a great play, fine play. You can see there in the notes, he's actually someone who benefited from that depleted wide receiver core last week for the New York Giants, running a route on 67% of Daniel Jones dropbacks. He turned that into a 26% target share, where he led the team with 7 targets. He had 6 receptions and 79 receiving yards, which led to damn near 14 DraftKings points. That is crushing value at this price here, $3,800, but again, I just don't think we need to go there this week. All right, everyone, that is going to wrap up this video here for today. As always, thank you all for taking the time out of your day to watch the content here on this channel. If you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. Let's have ourselves a great weekend here, folks. Let's win some money on Sunday as well. I'm out of here.